In case you didn't know, I love the music of Pat Metheny. Is it jazz? Is it world music? Is it synthesized? Is it symphonic? It's all those things and so much more. Gorgeous harmonic progressions, bold and grooving rhythms, and some of the most beautiful melodies you'll ever hear. It's great music with incredible bass playing, featuring a who's who of the best bass players from the last 5 decades. Yes, today I am breaking down the top 10 Pat Metheny bass lines, which also includes a few of my favorite melodies and solos played on the bass. Let's see if your favorite made my list. Number 10 comes from the brilliant Pat Metheny Brad Mehldau Quartet album from 2006, played by the amazing Larry Grenadier. The opening track is built around a hypnotic bass line using double stops, and it's one of my favorite bass lines to play. Number 9 is an awesome solo from the first Pat Metheny Group album in 1977. Bassist Mark Egan plays a stunning intro to the song April Joy. It's beautifully melodic, and he's using intervals you don't usually hear bass players play, like 6ths and 7ths. Number 8 comes from an album I absolutely love, 2020's From This Place. It's beautiful and at times symphonic, and for many of us, it was our introduction to the wonderful Linda O on bass. One of the great Pat Metheny Group albums has to be 1984's First Circle. This was the classic Pat Metheny Group lineup, featuring the bassist and producer who would work with Pat more than anybody else on this list, the great Steve Rodby. And wouldn't you know it that I got to sit down and talk with him about what it was like to be a part of this music.
That one, which originally was called Police, which is why it starts with that,
Oh, yeah.
Stuart Copeland-y kind of thing. Right. That's actually, to my memory, very much my invention of a bass line. It's me kind of adding this sort of pop thing, looseness to the structure, like a jazz musician would, but being very, very careful to still keep it extremely pure and focused to a certain kind of a vibe. It's also my title, oddly enough. This is just, and everyone always hated that title. I suggested 27 titles. They picked that one, but I always thought it was kind of sweet.
I have this feeling that he's going to pop up on this list again. Number 6 comes from the award-winning Unity Band album from 2012. This was a good one. Recorded by James Farber, this was a super band that featured the likes of Chris Potter on saxophone and the amazing Ben Williams on bass. Pat Metheny always seems to understand the power of a great bass line. If you love Pat Metheny's music nearly as much as I do, you'll want to check out a free concert that's happening this week. My Quintet, featuring the fabulous Dan Wilson on guitar, Glenn Zaleski on piano, Scott Bonney on sax, and Dave Throckmorton on drums, will be playing the music of Pat Metheny this Thursday, November 6th at City of Asylum in Pittsburgh. Can't be here in person? Check out the live stream, which is also free. Click on the link in the description and we'll see you there. Number 5 comes from, in my opinion, one of the great Metheny albums, 8081. His brilliant collaboration with Michael Brecker, Dewey Redman, Jack DeJohnette, and the late, great Charlie Haden on bass. The whole album is a revelation with many great moments, including that opening groove. But Charlie's beautiful turn on folk song number 2 is powerful and timeless. Which bass player does Pat Metheny have the most history with? Going back to the early 70s and Boston, it would be the great Steve Swallow. They played together in Gary Burton's band. Number 4 comes from Pat's album with the great John Scofield, 1994's I Can See Your House From Here. Swallow brings it here, bringing his signature sound and playing like nobody else can. From 1987's Still Life Talking, this is one of the most unique bass lines you'll ever hear.
My entire life, everyone's been saying to me, what the hell time signature is that thing in anyway? And I never thought of it as being in anything other than 4/4. And the melody is just so it's like a nursery rhyme. It's so much in 4/4. And that music is so much about melody and the way the melody interacts with the bass.
Using a little creative note placement and accents, Pat tricks us into thinking that this line is anything except what it really is, in 4/4 time.
I'm just trying to play a very difficult bass part in tune. I did the best I could, but that's all Pat. He gets that's his writing, which is just amazing. That's the greatest, That is the coolest bass part ever.
Number 2 takes us back to the beginning, 1975's Bright Size Life, and to one of Pat's greatest musical collaborators, the late, great Jaco Pastorius. Few things are as beautiful or as haunting as hearing him play this melody on the bass. I have to include a track from the Pat Metheny Group's 1995 album, We Live Here.
Right off the bat, the sound of that boom, 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 which sounds like, what the hell is that? It's me playing along with a bass sample, kind of 50-50, trying to play perfectly with it, and he wrote that whole thing of that A section. I didn't change one note, and it's unbelievably brilliant and cool.
Steve has what I call the 3 T's: the time, the touch, and the tone. And he's not just playing parts either. He's adding so much to each individual bass line that you can't measure his impact. And the man is funky too.
And a word that we both use a lot, you talk about it a lot in your work, is pacing. You
Yep.
know, so much of bass playing is about pacing behind solos and so forth. So it's kind of our pop record. I'm kind of playing pop-esque bass, but I'm pacing like a jazz musician. You know, that it's step by step and layer by layer kind of does that. That one I felt like I always felt like that was probably some of my best work, and then I listened back to it a minute ago and I thought, wow, I bet I did that. That's what I know how to do.
At number 1 is a bass line that has it all. It's constantly moving, highly rhythmic, and through composed. From Pat's 1992 album, Secret Story, this one features not just one, but 2 legendary bass players.
You can still hear the synclavier bass sample in there with me, playing together with me on the introduction. And it's 50%, maybe 40% sample and 60% me. And then the sample drops out when the melody comes in, or maybe it slowly by the bridge, and then from there on out, it's just me. You can hear a little bit of this funny attack or whatever in there. You can hear a little bit of the synclavier bass sample. Or whatever what it was on the very first go round, and then it goes away, and then it's all me to the end on that one, except for Anthony coming in at 3.5 minutes playing these beautiful other things. So it was nice.
Also making an appearance on this track is the late, great Anthony Jackson on bass guitar, who you can really pick out at around 3 minutes and 40 seconds into the track. Pat's music is stunning and beautiful, and not only requires the best bass players, but the right ones. I think that's why his music is always spoken to me.
It feels like that's the bass player's job. You know, we're sort of organizing the music for everybody else, and we're also sort of explaining the music to, and that's why, as you're well aware of, you know, so many bass players, or many bass players, end up working in production, helping people make records. I don't even call it producing so much anymore, just like I help people make records, because there's so many different phases that you can do. But it's because we're always thinking about making the whole thing sound better. You know, we're producing from our instruments. You know, we have one of the first things I teach my students is, I say, you have no idea how much power you have. If you knew, it would blow your mind. You know, I'm conducting from the instrument. So it's, you know, there's that relationship between this responsibility of ours to see the bigger picture and everything. And that's what I always aspired to anyway. I hope I did okay.
So, did your favorite Pat Metheny bass line make my list? There are a ton of great ones. Let me know in the comments. I want to give a huge thank you to 15-time Grammy Award-winning bassist and producer Steve Rodby for taking a little time out to sit down and talk with me about Pat's music. For real, he has been one of my favorite bass players for decades, and one of the great doublers you'll ever hear on the bass. And his involvement in the music of artists like John Prine, Ramsey Lewis, and Esperanza Spalding show that he's not just a master of the bass, he's a master of music. So smash that like button for Steve Rodby, and then go and check out some of this incredible music.